Hey everybody, Speedy here, Bennu Studio Inc. Back to continue the series Tales from the Drafting Table. This is episode 7 of me working on my Wolverine montage. Um, we made a lot of improvements. I'm very pleased with how those turned out in the last episode, so we're ready to get back into the composition and continue furthering it towards getting ready to refine it. Alrighty, well, let's get going on this, shall we? Alright. So, as I said, I've made some improvements, and now we want to run through this, finishing up some of my geometry, so I've got my flow. So let's get after this then, shall we? Um, yeah, I'm going to try in this particular episode to wrap things up a little bit. Try to get everything kind of in the right place. Um, yeah, I do want to get my ninjas. I want to get my ninjas in. And that whole fight sequence that kind of goes on. But also I want to try to get like the rest of the cover art in here. So we got like, this is cover 2. I'm going to put him right here, dead center in the tower. You know, him attacking the problem kind of pose. Like, and again, this is about the geometry. It's not about the final. So I'm hoping that I can get far enough in fleshing out this geometry that we can, in the next episode, be moving towards the final. And I'm going to be sketching a little faster because now I'm a little more confident that the pencil will show up better. And so let's, you know, like I said, focus on the geometry first. We'll worry about refining on tomorrow's video, which I'm kind of excited about because it'll definitely start to become more like apparent once I switch over to the blue pencil, which will be darker. But yeah, we've got the angry, pouncing Wolverine um, from the second cover. And yeah, like, but yeah, back to like the cultural side of this, the cultural clash. Japan definitely had kind of a caste system. Um, and I feel like, you know, technically that whole like origin of the caste system, if you will, was technically due to like this understanding that there is definitely like 3 different types of mental spaces, I guess you could say. Um, some say it's 3 different realms, but I don't believe that. But I do believe that there's like I've said before, a somatic, a psijic, and a pneumatic uh, frequency, if you will, or mental capacity to life. And somatic being purely materialistic focused, and so functioning more on the animal brain and less on mentalism, less sophisticated is, I guess, a cleaner way to put it, right? Yeah, I think this is a good one here. Putting it here, pouncing Wolverine. I like it. It restores the aggression to his character that he kind of loses through this saga right here. And I think that's pretty cool. We want to like have it dead center. But he's still the savage, like, you know, rugged Wolverine, you know, that we know him for. And yeah, just getting geometry. And I do believe it's all showing up a lot better. So, and we'll work on refining it later. Right now, it's like just getting the body's basic shape in. And I like that. I don't think it takes away from the tower at all. So we're gonna go with that. But like I do believe not only the caste system comes out of like this understanding that there are three different kind of functionalities to human beings, and that they naturally fall into one of these three places. But I also think that the caste system itself obviously was somewhat detrimental, because it also meant people that were technically Sijiks, but by birth could be trapped in the somatic life and couldn't rise above it, was definitely the downside. But it got corrected when you started seeing people like the Buddha and Sun Tzu and so forth transition across those lines and so forth, and show that birth had nothing to do with whether or not you were a somatic, a Sijic, or a pneumatic. Technically, it was literally your brain chemistry, it was your mind, it was the capacity of your mind. Um, to me, that's a beautiful thing. Um, a correction, if you will, a natural correction. And let's see, let's have the hunter one, because this is the last issue. I believe this is the last one. Yeah, this is the last cover. So we'll get this Wolverine here, and he's a nice cap off to the opening one, the opening issue one, having the hunter Wolverine kind of present and so forth. Right, having his weapon clipping into the name. I think that'd be a nice touch. And I did put a bracket, like a frame around it that I wanted to keep things to, but I don't think it has to stay there. Like, I think I can break that barrier, because I'm technically going to map a lot further away. But let's see, his weapon and his scope and everything, it's coming down this way. Arm this way. Yeah, I'm telling a little less stories and focused on trying to make up ground, because I did end up accidentally in that last episode, or 2 episodes ago, filming, uh, drawing some when the camera had shut off and not recognizing it, or not being sure about it. I did kind of recognize it, but I thought, looked up and it looked like it was doing okay, so I kind of left it running, thinking let it go, thinking it was running, but it actually wasn't. And yeah, he is a little smaller in this, but that's because I've got a lot of action kind of sequences all around with him. And this one's cool looking, but it's not that impressive. It's not as impressive as this one. So this is more of the hunter, him getting back to who he was before the mission, because he was sent there on a mission, and it became personal for him. And there's also what I really like about the series is that it shifts. It shifts from only being, you know, and it's proof right there. Frank Miller, he was a natural to move into movies eventually, and technically the best screenwriters, and they get overlooked and missed out on, technically would be comic book writers. Because when you really think about it, when they're writing these story arcs, they are technically writing a storyboard that could easily be turned into a movie. Now, I want to have the somber and kind of sad Wolverine, um, I think here. I think here. Well, it might not be bad to move him here. Even though it's the third episode, I'm kind of doing a flow of the story more than I'm doing like trying to put them in any kind of specific order. So yeah, I'm gonna take this one out and put the more humanized one, because it's also closer to kind of his failure, which is coming from there, you know. And so, and also because I want to put like him doing something about her old man, like he takes her old man to task. Yeah, I kind of like this, maybe and even a little bigger. It's a very humanizing view of him, and in a way, he's in pain, emotional pain, not physical pain, which he's like accustomed to dealing with actually. Um, so that makes this an even better like one to put in right here. But his head's more this way. Like I said, we're just fleshing out the geometry right now. We're going to worry about like detailing it tomorrow's episode. Like I said, I'm excited that we're finally at that place where we can start refining the work. And I'm going to do that part a little different. I'm going to film me refining each one, and I'm going to zoom in and work real close. and I'm going to do the storytelling as a voiceover instead, so I can just be purely in the details, so I can go purely pneumatic, if you will. Because for me, like, doing artwork and disappearing into the work literally does make me forget my body and really sends me into kind of a pneumatic state. My baseline is somatic, or everybody's baseline is somatic, but like I'm at work, and when I'm at work, I can't help but be in a somatic kind of place mentally, and I kind of battle it a little bit. I don't mean to, but I prefer to deal with being in a somatic state by feeding my brain. So I tend to be listening to philosophy podcasts and or things about different artists and different time periods in history, and or I listen to stuff about science, things like that, because that actually kind of makes the pain of being in the somatic activities a lot less for me. A lot more bearable is probably the better way of putting it. It's more bearable. Um, and that's the best way to describe it. Being in the somatic to me is pain. But for others who are purely in the somatic all the time, that's like their normal brain frequency. And that's what I meant about like a caste system. And that's kind of coming up because we're dealing with that subject in this Wolverine series. Her father is very caste system oriented and believes he owns her, and it's very much at odds with Western culture. And it's okay. This is going to get refined. It'll get better. Like I said, I'm trying to make up ground. I still like the idea of having that one there, and that this way I can have a pouncing Wolverine above the Kabuki dancer. So let's get the Kabuki dancer put in. I want him pretty good size, right about here. Maybe over some, maybe over some. But again, as I said, I'm sketching in geometry, and I'm not worried about perfection. Perfection starts to happen in the next episode where I refine each component. And yeah, I'm just gonna film me doing it and then do voiceovers for that part, so it's less the way this part of it has been, because this part of it has really been about only purely geometry and talking myself through the different elements. And I thought, well, I'll just share stories and talk to the viewer while I go through this part of the process. So the last 4 videos are actually going to be of me kind of formatting this a bit differently. It's got that gnarly squarish sword. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And so yeah, I'll have the angry like pouncing Wolverine right over the top of it. So he can be kind of big, because really out of the 4 covers, this one and this one to me are the best. So, and yeah, maybe even breaking out of the frame a little. His claws, and it makes it really clear Daddy's coming home to like deal with some business, if you will. I love that, you know. But yeah, like a lot of people, I'd say maybe 1% of the population, and all the elites, they all get educated or educate themselves at some point in what I'm discussing right now. The nature of humans, somatic, psychic, or pneumatic, and like Jesus would count as a pneumatic, Buddha, and so forth. And when I'm in my artwork, and when a musician is in the zone, and when any creative is fully immersed in that place, I can't describe it other than it is literally like going to another world. You don't feel your body; you only feel what you're doing. You know, and that's part of why I'm kind of still at it. Is experiencing that. Experiencing that was, for the first time, was life changing. I was like, why would anybody live any other kind of existence when they could have that? When they can experience that? Why? Why? You know? Let's see. Yeah, I want to have this part here where he's doing something about it. You know? he's doing something about that abusive husband that she ends up like married to, you know. And yeah, of course, she talks him out of it, and that's why they have this climatic fight at the end between Shinjin and her husband and everything. He just goes off. He just goes off. You know, beautiful stuff to me. I mean, he accepted to a point, and I agree. But then, like, when she's physically being abused, like, and he sees her and she's beat up, that's just too far. That's too far for him, and I think that's right. I think that's the right reaction. So I'm really, wanting to have this part in where he's like, "Nah, bitch, you technically violated my honor now by abusing the thing that I would have cherished, and I'm gonna make you pay. I'm gonna make you pay for my loss and for what you're doing." So I really love him for that, but he doesn't kill him. He doesn't kill him. You know, Mikiro, she prevents him, and it shows how much he loves her. But he stops, even though he really, really, really doesn't want to. He really, really owes this guy, you know, and that's the hero in him. This is where he steps into. This is where he's the hero in the story instead of the victim or the agent there on a mission. This is where he becomes more. This is what makes him heroic. So this definitely has to be in here, you know. And I think it's a good contrast with like him down here doing the ninja thing, tearing up these ninjas and stuff. And yeah, that's enough for me to know what's coming as far as like honing in on the design. Yeah, these colored pencils, I do think they show up better, y'all. I don't know what y'all think. You'll have to tell me, but I think they do work better. Yeah, he's got this fat, and this tell you something about Wolverine's strength right here, boy. This dude's a fat old boy, right? And he's got him jacked up in the air, like way up. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna cut your jugular. Um, you know, um, I have in my own personal life. I don't want to get too deep into the story because it's really tragic. It really happened, and it still on some level bothers me. Too often in Western culture, especially down in the region I'm in, interpret men to be the only one who have this ugly domestic abuse side to them or abusive like kind of nature that can result in physical abuse. Somebody I was really close to, he ended, he was in trouble a lot. He was, wasn't the smartest guy, but an honorable guy, and he had a wife who was pretty abusive to him. But they kind of had a weird vicious kind of relationship. Best way I could put it. They had a son together, and he was getting into boosting and doing stuff, and he got himself a prison sentence. And he was away at the TBCJ doing his time. And while he was in there, his son, his 7-year-old son, died of malnutrition. Yeah, you heard me. In a first world country, there's no damn excuse for that. There's none whatsoever. She abused and neglected his son while he was away severely, and would withdraw food and just spend it on her boy toys and things like that. So he was given release to go to the funeral, and they kept a cop with him and stuff in the hotel room. Well, when the cop fell asleep, he woke up, slipped out, went over there to their house, and cut her throat and killed her. Caught a life prison sentence after that from what was a basic robbery charge. Um, Texas didn't give him the death penalty because it was 100% easily provable to be a passion-oriented kind of killing. And in my opinion, she actually had it coming for what she did. Um, I can remember before he went away, though, like she would wake him up by hitting him in the ribs with a 2x4. So, women can definitely be physically abusive monsters too. It's not only a male thing. It's just not real common, but it does still happen. And that's one thing I don't really like about Texas is they automatically assume the woman is right. And I've seen at least two cases in my life where it was absolutely not the truth. It was not the truth. It was quite the opposite. And the man still got hung. And it's because justice is a little bit too blind sometimes, you know? But let's get on to the fun stuff. Like I said, piles of ninja bodies. That's all going down in here, and we want to put the super badass, my favorite pose in the whole series, right? Where is there it is, there it is, there it is, there it is. Yes. The best one to me in the whole series is the one where Wolverine is like, yeah, bitches, he's standing over a pile of like, and I even like the idea of like it appearing that he's standing on the shoulder of himself, of his vicious, feral self, you know? This is the one where he's standing in like the pile of dead ninjas he just got done obliterating. This one's one of my faves right here. And maybe where I start tomorrow when we start to refine and detail it and get honed in. But like I said, this is purely geometry. Work out where everything goes first. Worry about, you know, precision later. Yeah. Yeah. It's good stuff. Like I said, I think it's all better and more visible now. I love how this got this dark silhouetted look. Miller was great at contrast shots like this, and to me, they're the most fun to like put together and stuff. Yeah, this is like at his full, like ripped out, totally vicious, very delicious Wolverine here. And yeah, like I said in the book, it's my favorite. It's my favorite pose. My favorite action sequence could have been its own montage all by itself. Um, and yeah, we get the ninja bodies, and then of course we're gonna have like fight scenes where, you know, all throughout in here where he's fighting ninjas and she's fighting ninjas, and he's got him and his new chick, you know, getting drunk and stumbling around together. That's all gonna go kind of up in here. And yeah, I like the idea of having a bottle here, so it shows that he's self-medicating. Now, like I said in previous videos, I really don't give much excuse for that. But like I also said, if we didn't have humans and their flaws, we wouldn't have stories. There would be no reason for there to be artists to try to go, hey, wait, you're hurting yourself by doing this. And by telling these stories so people can see for themselves the wounds they inflict on themselves and see ways to heal and, you know, move beyond your pain, because everybody's in pain. Everything alive is in pain. It's not an excuse to do stupid and destructive things to yourself. It's not. It's not. You know, yeah, him with the girl and stuff, and they're having a good time and they're drinking. And at some place, I got to find a place to make her more prominent. And then, of course, I'll be capping off the whole thing with the sequence of him fighting, you know, Sinjin right in here. And I'm going to do the full proper sequence that went down the way it went down. So this is one of those few areas where it's going to be a true one-to-one copy. You know, Wolverine getting hit really hard. So yeah, this is crude right now because, like I said, it's composition focused, it's geometry focused, it's not detail focused. That's going to come with time. Yeah, Sinjin. Sinjin's a cool character. And yeah, I also want to have some like maybe the modern stuff, you know, and pile of ninjas and yeah, and this sequence here with table turns. Actually, the shoulder is more that way. Arm is more that way. I'll hold the sword. And then, yeah, this one's close up where tables turn. Wolverine's like, now, bitch. I got a healing factor. It's time to use that, right? And he grabs the sword, knowing that he's gonna like get his hands all cut up and everything. He grabs the sword so that he can get in close. 'Cause that's Shinjin's real advantage in their fights together, right? And he's pulling on the sword, and you can see like his hand here, like he's reaching out, and the other one is holding the blade in his hand like this. Yeah, you can see kind of smirk on his face. And Sinjin's head and Wolverine's fist up underneath it. And we all know what it means when Wolverine has his claws retracted and has them up underneath somebody's chin, y'all. We all know what that means when Wolverine does that. It's like this thing right there. He's got to execute homeboy, and then instead of putting this one, I want to put, where's it at? Ooh, I gotta find places to put the bar fight in there too. Might end up in there. But that stuff to me that's purely background. Yeah. See, this is the one I want in here. It's a whole lot more dramatic. And I'm gonna put his gloves on, obviously. This and blades. So it kind of implies it a little more, I think. And then of course the word snick, is a signature when the blades like come out, So yeah, I did notice there's a few things that I still need to put in. I'm just making sure, like I said, the geometry's clean on it. Yeah, the bar fighting scene. The idea he throws him out of a window, right? We might end up making the Kabuki dude a little smaller. Make him a little smaller. Actually bring this down, and put the bar sequence here, the bar fight sequence. Or here and here, in between is where I think the bar fighting sequence should be. So it's a chance to like him put his power on display. I just, like I said, I need the geometry to remind me what's happening. And then we'll begin refining each section as we go through it. I feel this is really strong. I'm good with this composition as far as like structure, narrative structure. Obviously, there's things I need to tighten in, but also I want to put like his past girl, in her traditional kimono and all that. Here, then I want to put his new girl here in her like modern kind of clothes. And then ninja fighting all around inside of here. Him fighting ninjas everywhere. Ninjas everywhere. I want to sprinkle a bunch of ninjas inside of all of this. Because, yeah, ninjas are awesome, y'all. And so we can see all the different people that come after him. And then down in here, the bodies of the ninjas, And maybe a good sequence where he's actually straight up gutting one of them, kind of in the background back here. So, yeah, the body would tend to be like, raw, arms like, oh my god, sword gets dropped and Wolverine's like extended, he's extending himself to stick it in his gully, because if anything, Wolverine literally fit his name. He wasn't just kind of a small, compact dude who happened to look like a wolf, a Wolverine. He was a scrappy style of fighter who take all of the advantages, who go for all of the. And yeah, I think I need to put the agent he was there with over his shoulder in here. You know, I think that's a clean, you know, way to do it. But I need to make sure that it looks like the agent and doesn't look like this dude. Other than that, yeah, y'all. And then of course the name Wolverine down in here. Corpses of ninjas, weapons sticking out, hands prone, arm parts, leg parts, bodies, all down in here behind the name. And then, yeah, like I said, all those fighting sequences with the ninjas. In here, yeah, the story I told tonight was kind of a dark one. Um, Life's like that though. You can't run from the shadow. You got to do your shadow work, even if you're trying your best to be your best version of yourself and be a good person. You got to do your shadow work. The mistake is where people think that they should stay there, that they enjoy their shadow and they enjoy doing dark, evil things to other people, and that they like drama and they like causing trouble. Those are the ones that are a detriment to the entirety of humanity. Full stop. That's really all. You know. So not even the somatics are really a problem. Nobody has a choice of what their brain chemistry is like. Some people are only purely materialistic and they just can't know anything beyond it. And then there are mentalists in the middle. And then there's the pneumatics who know how to transcend out of their body. And like I said, some Sijic people, specifically the Sijic people who are creative, have the ability to go in and out of the Sijic realm into the pneumatic, and from the Sijic realm into the somatic. Um, I will admit that I have a hard time going into the somatic side of existence because it's painful for me. I'm watching a lot of wounded people getting by on the very minimum and not realizing that it's all in their mind. The ability to be in the higher Sijic place is just all literally about your mind, and it makes me sad that there's some people whose minds can't ascend and can't be more, and so they have no choice but to live in the animal, somatic kind of materialistic existence. Because, and the reason it makes me sad is because I know firsthand how beautiful your mind is, and if you have a visual mind like mine, it's a garden, and so it's easy to prefer that to the somatic life. Anyway, I'm going to call this a stopping point because, like I said, I actually have achieved fleshing out the entirety of how I want the composition to work out and can begin doing the detail work tomorrow for y'all. And in the next series, we will continue doing stuff and telling stories. But we are about to move into the second phase of this and be winding up this series, or this aspect, this subject that's in the series. The series will be a regular one. Alrighty. Alright, y'all. We're at a good stopping point. I feel really good about where we finished off at. Um, yeah, technically, it might not quite be visually strong in this one, because I kept it really light, and I moved really fast, and I really did only tell a couple of stories, and I kind of bobbed and weaved out of subjects a little less focused because I was in battle with myself between drifting into the Sijic brains, and being clinical and technical and just telling stories. And there was a part of me during it was ready already. I constantly fight. When I'm doing artwork, I'm constantly fighting, falling into that pneumatic where I forget my body, I forget to talk, I forget everything. I'm only in that place I'm working. So that's where the different formats of the drafting table series about Wolverine will end up happening. And then at the end of that process, I will announce what the next subject will be for Tales from the Drafting Table. So All right, I hope everybody manifests the wonderful things they have in their mind, not the negatives. It's all in your mind. And I hope you will have a wonderful evening. And we'll see you in tomorrow's episode, okay? Bye, y'all.